Right now, I'm going to bring to a stage a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He is one of my favorite actors working today. I have been watching him for years and years and years, and I feel that he is such an incredibly subversive talent, very versatile, and I feel like we're all here because we love the hell out of the horror movies this guy has been associated with. He's done some pretty incredible stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Bill Moseley. He came to fix our cable. Thank you. Yeah, no, this is a Q&A that we're doing. But I'm glad that I could call you with that to fit you in. Yeah, well.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hello, thanks for waiting for the last fucking panel of the day.
Yeah.
The whole weekend. It's me.
It's you.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to, be entertaining and elucidating and whatever else I can be. So, hello.
Hello.
I'm just waking up.
So let's start with Texas Chainsaw 2, because Caroline Williams is a really great friend of mine, and she speaks very, very highly of you. And I really would love to know just where you were in life at the time that you got that call to have that role.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to ask if I'd ever slept with her.
Oh, well, I mean, if you want to start a whole new path.
Yeah, let's see here. How did I get into Chainsaw 2?
Yeah.
Well, I was deeply affected by the original Texas Chainsaw, which I saw in 1976 in Boston, Massachusetts, in a bad part of town called the Combat Zone. I saw it at a theater that was, I guess, probably pretty glamorous in the 30s, but had now fallen into decay. It's called the Paramount Theater. And Chainsaw was on the tail end of a double bill, which began with Enter the Dragon. So Sunday afternoon, matinee, double feature, $2. It was, and it had kind of a low-life crowd, and I went in just wondering what the hell is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was like, what? What kind of crazy title is that? And I sat through Enter the Dragon. I'd never seen a Bruce Lee movie. That was awesome. And everybody was very enthusiastic, and they were yelling at the screen, "Oh, kick his ass, Bruce, come on!" And then came the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was so, just from the opening shots of, I don't remember, it was kind of a slow strobe with this tortured violin string sound effect, and this slow strobe with this kind of melted corpse. And it was just like, what the hell is this? And this was, again, 76, so I mean, this was really pretty wild. And so I watched it. I watched the whole thing. I kept trying to see the boom shadow or the zipper in the costume so that I could get a little distance. But I never did. I never saw anything. And it just sucked me in and freaked me out. And so over the years, the following years, I couldn't get it out of my head. It really freaked me out. And so I kept trying to see it as often as I could, figuring if I saw it a number of times that I would actually be able to let it go. And instead, every time I saw it, it just kind of pounded it deeper into my head, my heart, my soul. And then finally, I was working on a ranch in Wyoming. It was called the Boxar Ranch in Cora, Wyoming. And that was the summer of 1984, so that's 8 years later. And I was just a ranch hand on this dude ranch, and I was doing something outside, digging a ditch or chopping something. I don't know what I was doing. And I was working with a kid, like a 16-year-old kid from Geneseo, Illinois, named John Wright. And John was a little sugar freak. His parents, I guess he was adopted, and his parents were undertakers in Geneseo, Illinois, which is part of the Tri-Cities, with Moline, and I don't know what the other one is, but over by the Mississippi River. Anyway, John was sent to the ranch to I don't know, straighten out or something like that at 16. And he was a sugar freak, so he would pound, the Frosted Flakes, the Mellow Yellow, the Fudgsicles, man, he was just on it. And when he would do a lot of hard manual labor under the hot Wyoming sun, he would go into what I call sugar deliriums, and he would start speaking in tongues, really. But they were kind of like, it was more like that character from Equus, who, that old play, y'all remember that one. But anyway, he would just start parroting TV commercials, jingles, cartoons, crazy voices. And one day we were chopping wood or whatever we were doing, digging an irrigation ditch, and he was blathering away, oh, Captain Crunch, whatever he was doing. And then all of a sudden he said, Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And then he went back to Captain Crunch and Crusader Rabbit or whatever he was doing. And I heard it, because usually I turn a deaf ear to him because it was like too much. But then I heard that, Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And I went back to the bunkhouse, this was a ranch, and I wrote out a 5-minute scenario called the Texas Chainsaw Manicure. And I came back to New York City, where I was living at the time, and I gathered some friends, and I ended up going to Staten Island to a little beauty parlor called Sonia's Hair Fashions on a Sunday afternoon, and we shot the Texas Chainsaw Manicure, which I had written and produced, and I also gave myself a cameo in it as the hitchhiker from the original Chainsaw. And basically the manicure is a woman goes to a beauty parlor, wants to get her hair done. She gets her hair done. She's sitting under the dryer, and the beautician comes up and says, you want anything else? She goes, yeah, I think I'll have a manicure. And the beautician goes, manicure, to the back of the shop. You hear a chainsaw start, and the steel door slides open, and out comes Leatherface from the back of the beauty parlor, and he comes over to her with his smoking chainsaw and starts sawing on her fingers. And she's screaming, and she's under the dryer, and she passes out from just terror and pain, presumably. And then they kind of slap her face and bring her to the beautician, and she goes, no. She's got a fabulous manicure. And she goes outside to show her husband, played by me as the hitchhiker, looking at the hitchhiker, in a pickup truck. She goes, honey, look, I got the best manicure ever. And I looked up and I go, hey, that's great, honey. We should celebrate with some head cheese. And I went out and bought a hunk of head cheese and, proffered it to her, and she's like, ugh. And in one of the takes, I actually licked the head cheese. I don't know, maybe y'all like head cheese. I mean, to me, it was like, it's an acquired taste, let's put it that way. And, anyway, so a friend of mine took that little 5-minute video and showed it to Tobe Hooper. Because I had a friend who was actually a screenwriter in Hollywood. And when I was out visiting him, I showed him the manicure. And he said, I got an office right across the hall from Tobe Hooper, who was at Paramount Pictures back then working on Poltergeist. And my friend, true to his word, he walked the manicure back, and it was in a videotape back then. And he walked it into Toby's office. Toby apparently watched it. My friend also gave me Toby's home phone number and told me not to tell, and said, why don't you call him in about 10 days, see what happens. And so I did. And Toby answered the phone, which I then later learned was a miracle. Usually didn't. And I identified myself. Hi, Tobe. I'm Bill Moseley. I made that chainsaw manicure. And he goes, oh, hey, Bill. How you doing? I love the manicure. I went, oh, great. And he said, yeah, who played the hitchhiker character? I said, well, that was me. And he goes, well, hell, if I ever do a sequel, I'll keep you in mind. And 2 years later, I got the call. Damn. And that's how I never did audition for it. I got the call, and they said, you want to play this character? And, it's like, yeah, sure. Fuck yeah.
That's a life-changing kind of situation to be in, especially with how notorious Texas Chainsaw was, and then to get that sequel, that's amazing. One of the other things that, as fans, we all definitely want to hear a little bit about is Mr. Otis Driftwood. House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and now you got 3 from Hell on the way.
Oh yeah.
We all can't wait to see what that's
3 to 3.
3. I want to know how you feel or how you felt getting that role versus how you feel now seeing the longevity that it's had, and just because it's almost totally reignited, what I feel is lacking in a lot of horror movies these days, which is an iconic character. And somehow Rob has managed to almost make every movie he does have something iconic in it, where I feel a lot of movies nowadays miss that. So how do you feel as the actor behind it?
Well, Rob is a big fan of 70s and to some extent 80s horror, so that's the fact that he would make these great characters is certainly understandable. It feels good. I mean, it feels good to get back into the skin and beard of Otis Driftwood. The beard is gone because I've been doing these photo ops as Otis from House of a Thousand Corpses. But the beard will come back. I'm assured of that by my face. And my wife doesn't really like the beard either, so that kind of puts a little damper on it. But it feels good. It's 14 years later, so that's a pretty long time to wait for a sequel. But I'm very glad. We had a good time doing it. It was kind of it was a little daunting at first because I remember one of the first, it was either day one or day two of me working on it. I had some scene where I have a little bit of a monologue in the scene, and I'm starting to talk, do my monologue, and I was flubbing the lines. I was getting tongue-tied. I was somehow it wasn't coming trippingly off the tongue, as they say. And and Rob's kind of looking at me, and I'm just going, "Give me a sec here." And I sat down, and it was so funny. In my head, I hear, because what I was being in that moment was a insecure Hollywood actor, where I'm like, how do I look? What's my line? Doing all that insecurity stuff. And this voice, very clear, very calm voice, said, "Bill, sit down, I got this." And it was Otis. He's in here. And the next take, fucking smooth. Just like, take your Hollywood insecurity and just, sit over there, shut up, I got this. And after that, it was a lot of fun.
And that's kind of what makes Otis so cool anyway, is that he doesn't really, he has emotions and he has feelings to a certain degree, but he's a ruthless killer. So to say that that voice told you to just let it go, that totally makes sense, because that's what a killer would do. They would just be like, I'm on autopilot, this is just who I am.
I got this, buddy.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Well, we all know that Bill has done a lot that we all love, which is why we're here, but one of the reasons we're here is because we're fans. So if you guys are up for it, I'd like to open it up to the audience to ask Bill a question. Does anybody have a question for Bill that they would like to ask? You, Miss.
What's your favorite movie that you've worked on so far?
They're all my favorite movies. I worked on a lot. Basically my standards are pretty low. So, basically for me, it's, the check clears and I don't get hurt. And if those two things happen, then I'm pretty okay with it. Every movie I do is a different experience. Certainly Chainsaw 2 would have to probably be it was my first love, my first big movie. It was the first time I realized that you could run away and join the circus, and sometimes they'd let you stay. In this case, I've stayed for 32 years or whatever it's been. So I would have to say Chainsaw 2.
Anybody else? You, sir.
How did the whole look of the Chop Chop character come about? What was the overall look?
How did the look of Chop Chop?
That's a Tom Savini question. They had already figured all that out. I do remember that years after Chainsaw 2, I was at a Hollywood party outdoors around a pool. It sounds kind of a cliche.
Very Hollywood.
Yeah, very Hollywood. And Toby Hooper was there, and I went up to him and I said, Tobe, what was the whole thing about the plate and scratching the plate and everything? So I never really asked him the origin of it or whatever, and he said, "Oh hell, Bill, that was your G-spot." I was like, "Oh." I knew it felt good, but I wasn't playing quite the G-spot. I was playing like itching the poison ivy or something, but I guess it came across okay.
Anybody else have a question? Well, I've got one. Oh, you want to ask another? You can. Go for it.
How did you end up working on Evil Bong?
How did you-
It was such a great but weird movie. I was just wondering how you got there.
That's a good question.
Wait, is that-
I mean, yeah, I remember the experience. It wasn't in a blackout. I think I was going to do, I know what it was. I was going to do something, there was another movie he was doing after that. I don't know if it was called Dead Man's Hand, or he was doing something that was set in a casino or something. I don't know what. So my appearance in Evil Bong was supposed to be kind of a prelude to my being in his next movie. So I guess he just wanted to establish that character in some cameo. And then I ended up getting a job in Poland. So I couldn't do that next movie, and so he hired Sid Haig instead. And so I don't know what the name of the movie was, because I tried to put it out of my mind. But that was why I was there.
Anybody else got a question? You, sir.
If you were to play any character, fictional or non-fictional, horror or not, what would it be that you haven't played already?
I don't know. What do you got in mind?
I don't know.
Let's talk to your investigator.
I just last year I played a scary clown in a movie called Crepitus. Before that, I was in Death House as one of the 5 evils. So I'm like the evilest of the evils, whatever that means. And then in the fall of last year, I was in Detroit playing actually a good guy in a scary puppet movie called Handy Dandy, or Handy Andy.
Andy,
Dandy, something like that. So, but I actually got to play with Bill Oberst Jr., who is a really good guy. He is also in 3 from Hell. So
awesome.
It's good to see him there. My wife is in 3 from Hell, but I'm not supposed to say that.
I'm excited for a trailer or something like that.
Yeah, the trailers. Yeah, I think that it's going to really. What I love about 3 from Hell is that and lately horror is now like on the rise again. It seems to go through cycles, and with the Halloween and Get Out and Annihilation. Well, it's not really that or science fiction
rules. Though.
Yeah, but Hereditary. There's some really good horror movies, but a lot of them lack cruelty and gratuitous violence. And that's what we're bringing back. Yeah. We want to bring back gratuitous violence. Fuck yeah.
I love that.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, a question that I have for you personally is, I would say he's probably my best friend, and that's Mr. Mike Mendez. For those of you who don't know, Mike Mendez is the director of a film called The Convent that Bill was in. He's also the director of Big Ass Spider and a bunch of other fun stuff. But I want to know, what was your experience?
Did he also do La Vantula?
He did Lava Lantula.
Lava Lantula.
Yes. And I was supposed to play one of the leads in that film at one point.
Yeah.
It was there's a story. We'll talk about that later. This is about you.
Lava Lantula.
What was your experience working with Mike? Because I know him so well that I'm curious for you as an actor what it was like working with him in Coolio.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I hadn't really worked in about a year when I got the call from my cousin. My cousin was actually, helped to arrange some of the financing for the convent. So he got me a job on the convent to play one of the 2 security guards at the old convent or whatever. So, and I was teamed up with Coolio. And I do remember actually showing up and really just being, when you get off the horse, if you keep acting, then each time you do it, it's not so scary. But for me, I hadn't really done it for a while, and I remember I just ended up like so afraid when I was on my way to work. I had one day on the convent, shot in Los Angeles, and I just remember on my way there, I was just really shitting bricks, so to speak. And I was trying to think of how I could maybe call them up and say that I was sick or my car had broken down, just anything to get out of having to show up. And I somehow, something just kept my hands on the wheel, and I kept going to the location. And I got there and parked, and I remember, you know, people coming up. Some of the young cast members came up to me and said, you know, "Oh, we're so excited to be working with you. We're such big fans of Chop Top," or whatever they were saying. And I remember just like going, "Ah, that's great," and just trying to, you know, get to my little honey wagon. And I remember just kind of saying, "Yeah, okay, yeah, see you on the set," and, you know, opening the door and literally falling into my little trailer space and closing the door behind me, and just, you know, I didn't weep, but I was just gasping like a fish on a dock. I was so fucking scared. Just for some reason, my nerves, everything was so really overwhelming. And somehow I just kind of breathed through it. And, you know, and then there's always the knock on the door, which just sounds like, you know, you're about to be walked to the gas chamber. You know,
They need you on set.
my time. And so I walked through it, and, you know, you'd think that once, you know, I got into costume and I met Coolio, who's a great guy, and, you know, went through the scene, Mike, great guy. Everybody was really fine and supportive. It never really got better. I mean, I was just frightened the whole way through that night. And you'd think, again, if once you get on the bike and you start pedaling, then it's gonna, you know, you're gonna get some sense of memory or something. But for me, it just was a scary night, really, really tough. Probably the toughest night I've ever had in my career as a movie actor. And somehow I got through it. I knew my lines and all that stuff. And it was amazing because now when I look at the convent, you know, I look and I just think, you can't really tell. So I guess that's really acting. That's really acting because it looks like we're having fun, everybody's cool. And, you know.
Little do we know, they call cut, you're crying in the trailer.
Oh my God, I'm like, oh, where am I? You know, I'm clammy and cold sweat. Oh. But somehow that was great. That's what it took to get back into the rhythm of it. And, you know, I've never had that experience since, or before for that matter.
I'll make sure to tell Mike, you're the only movie he cried on.
Yeah.
And he was
I did
super
cry.
bummed about.
I take that back. One of the things I thought I would never be a good actor or a successful actor in the movies because I could not cry. You know, I was raised by a Marine, you know, in the middle of 3 boys, no girls. I mean, Illinois, a lot of we shoveled a lot of snow back then. And so I just was not raised as a sensitive, I'm sensitive, but not an expressively emotional person. So I was afraid that I would never, I didn't mind sex scenes. I was actually looking forward to those, which, were few and far between. But then I thought, if there was one thing that's going to totally expose me as a fraud, as a wannabe actor and not a real actor, that would be if I had to cry in a scene. Because I thought I would never be able to shed tears in a movie scene. And I was doing a movie called Silent Night, Deadly Night 3.
Oh, yeah.
3. And directed by a very cool director named Monty Hellman. And I'm playing Ricky, the Santa Claus killer. And I've now gotten out of, the hospital. I have my head's been shot up by the police. And so I had this weird kind of, looks like a kind of a fishbowl on my head. I call it the brain cap. And it was a clear plastic bowl, and you could see my brain in it. And there was some orange juice and little blinking lights. It's fucked up. And anyway, there's a scene where I am now this zombie kind of killer, and I have somehow managed to hitchhike my way to the orange groves of Piru, California, and I've knocked on the door of this old lady who opens the door and sees me, and I've just killed Carlos Palomino, the middleweight boxing champion of the world. Not in the, he was a character that picked me up, so I've killed him and taken his knit cap, which kind of fits a little odd on my brain bowl, and I've got his weird windbreaker. I just look just like a total psycho, And the old lady kind of sees me and goes, "Oh, you must be lost. Come in." So she invites me into her house. She sits me down at the dinner table, and she's gonna, she thinks I'm a homeless guy, and she's going to make me some food. And I'm sitting there at the table, and I had one artist's choice. I made a choice. I'm left-handed normally, so she comes in and she walks in very smiling. She comes in from the kitchen, and she puts in front of me. She puts down a bowl of chicken soup. And that was my one artist choice, the soup, and I chose, because I'm like, a zombie or whatever I was, I thought I would eat with my opposite hand. So I pick up the spoon in my right hand, and, just putting the soup to my lips, and I look up, and she's just right here. She's just like a perfectly cast grandmother. She's so sweet. She's smiling and serene with her little glasses and her little white bun of hair. And I just look up, and in that moment, I just I don't know, for some reason, the fucking tears came. At first, it just, I was, and there was such a moment of love, I guess, that all of a sudden, these tears started coming out of my eyes. And I'm just, I'm thinking and there's a part of me that's in the moment and feeling this emotion. There's another part of me that's kind of the objective part going, what the fuck? And these tears are coming down, and Monty, the sensitive director, the auteur, he goes, and cut. Very sotto voce, and then the crew starts to applaud. And that's when I thought, this is fucking weird. So I've got tears, I've got a blinking brain cap with this weird fucking knit cap on top of it. My spoon in my right hand, and Granny, and my fucking eyes are tearing. And that was the beginning of, a very sensitive side of my acting career.
That's actually a really cool story. I really like that a lot. Before we go, one of my personal questions I would like to end with is that in House of a Thousand Corpses, first time I saw that film, I saw it opening day when it came out in theaters, and I hated it, and I didn't know why. I just didn't resonate. I was maybe too young at the time to really get it. And then a bunch of my friends were like, no, let's go again. Or we want to go, come with us. I'm like, I already saw it, I didn't like it. They're like, well, let's get drunk, and then we'll go watch it, see it. So I got drunk, and I went, still didn't like it. Third night, I'm not even shitting you, my friends call me, they say, hey, do you guys want to go see House of a Thousand Corpses? I was like, I've already seen it twice, I hated it. Come with me. I don't want to, I didn't like it. Just, we'll get high, and then we'll go watch the movie. So I do that, and I still didn't like it. And then a week, right?
You gotta get a new dealer, man.
Right? But then, this is the weird thing that happened. About, I want to say 2 months later, I was sitting at home, and I was just thinking about it. And I realized I had been thinking about it since I walked out of the theater the first time. It had never left my mind. I couldn't get the characters out of my head. I couldn't understand why I didn't like this thing. And so I was trying to push through, this greater purpose of why, for a better life return. And then I realized that I thought it was a horror masterpiece. Suddenly, I went from hating the movie to never understanding why I would have hated it, because I adore that film. I have Captain Spaulding on my arm, for God's sake.
Well.
Yeah, but to me, I just...
Where's Otis?
He's coming.
All right.
I'm waiting for Three from Hell so I can see which one.
Just not on the butt cheek.
Yeah, I won't do that. I promise I won't do that to you. But I genuinely adore House of a Thousand Corpses. I adore The Devil's Rejects. I mean, I think that's as far of a departure as you can get for a sequel than most, and it's done so incredibly well. Your role of Otis, there's so much dialogue in House of a Thousand Corpses that I fucking love. Like Donald Duck on one side, Mickey Mouse on the other, and all that shit.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of improv that you did? Because that character has so many Manson-like qualities to him that I had to imagine that not everything was on the page. but I really want to know, like, was there improv that you pulled on that, or was that all?
Not really.
Wow.
That was Rob's first movie, and he was pretty tight with the script. I think I think Sid ends up doing a lot more improv than I did. I just felt like he really wanted us to stick to what was on the page. And so that was pretty much all Rob. All of that. Trying to look on one side, Mickey Mouse on the other, scooping ice cream to your shit-heeled friends.
So great, yeah, so good. Well, to clear it up, because I just realized that in that last part, the reason I realized that I loved it eventually was because it had been so long since we even had a movie that dared to be that kind of horror film. Right. That was a Texas Chainsaw, nitty-gritty, super ultra-violent, overwhelming Argento music video lighting. There was so much going on that I think my brain just didn't know how to love it because it was so different for me at that time in my life. Now, as a fan here sitting with you, I must say it's been nothing short of an honor being able to hang out with you today and fly on the plane with you. But I want to thank you guys for coming out, and I hope you all had a fucking blast. Thank you for coming to Days of the Dead. Give it up for Bill Moseley. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming out and supporting the gratuitous violence and sadistic pleasures of our vocation. Thank you very much.